So I've got petrol and diesel. Have you ever wondered what would happen if maybe your petrol car is filled with diesel or your diesel car is filled with petrol? You realize they almost mix. Let's get to understand the consequences of filling the wrong fuel in your car. So here I've got a very simple illustration of a diesel engine and a petrol engine. So what happens when you fill diesel into your petrol car and petrol in your diesel car? Let's see about it, and I'll start with what happens when you fill diesel into your petrol car. So over here, you realize that petrol is highly combustible. And that is why we have a spark plug over here that now aids in the combustion process. So when you fill in diesel into your petrol, now what happens is that when you fill diesel over here, the diesel clogs up around the spark plug. And now when this clogging up of the spark plug, it simply means that combustion will not take place, and if at all it takes place, in very minimal, as in a very minimal combustion will happen in here. And now what that results to is a lot of unburnt fuel. So when the exhaust valves open, a lot of unburnt fuel will get out, resulting into a lot of smoke. Number two, because combustion did not occur, it results into a lot of misfire and a lot of jacking. Okay, so what's the solution to this? If you're lucky enough, you can just switch off the car, drain the fuel, and you may walk away out of this. However, I don't guarantee it, but you may walk away out of it if you're lucky. So let's now go to when you put petrol in your diesel car. Let me tell you, this is very catastrophic. And that is because diesel has high lubricating abilities comparing to petrol. Actually, even when you touch diesel, you realize it has a slimy feel. But when you touch petrol, it's rough. It has a lot of friction in it. So when you fill petrol into your diesel car, it simply means that you're starving the fuel system of the lubrication that it needs, from your fuel pump to your injection pump to your injector nozzles, all of them, all the way to the engine. They are not properly lubricated. And now that will result into a lot of grinding of parts, resulting into wear and tear. Now that's for the fuel system. Now, the worst part is when now the petrol gets into your combustion chamber. Realize that diesel combusts via compression. So what happens is that as the piston is moving upwards due to the movement of the crankshaft and compression happens, what I said over here is that petrol is highly combustible. So it will result into what we call premature detonation. Premature detonation is like what I once said. It's like hitting on a piston with a sledgehammer. So as the piston is trying to rise up due to the movement of the crankshaft, now the detonation is now pushing it downwards. And now that will result into even a cracked piston, your cylinder sleeves will be affected, and that will result into catastrophic damage in your engine. All right? So when you put petrol into your diesel car, then it will cause you irreversible damages that will cost you a lot of money. But then, how do you prevent it in the first place? We always say prevention is better than cure. When you go to a fuel station, always ensure that your car is switched off. I mean, starting your car will only take you 1 second, and it will save you a lot. Because when your car is switched off and maybe the attendant fuels in the wrong fuel, you will notice it before you start your car, and you will drain the fuel before any damage happens to your car. Number two, always ensure that you get out to see which fuel has been put into your car. So recently I was driving a Mazda Demio diesel, and when I went to Shags and went to fuel in a fuel station, the fuel attendant assumed that simply because it is a small car, it runs on petrol. But then, good thing, I was very keen, and when he reached out for the petrol pump, I told him, no, this is a diesel car, and it needs to be filled with diesel. So always be keen when you go to a petrol station so that you can avoid these catastrophic damages on your car.